While apocalyptic and post-apocalyptic stories are often grouped into the same category, apocalyptic sci-fi, they are somewhat different and have differences in plot structure and narrative outcomes. They are clearly divided by the apocalyptic event. In apocalyptic fiction, the event has not yet happened. Much of the action in these stories is devoted to trying to prevent the catastrophe from occurring. The plot will need to develop this line of action. Characters will be developed in relation to it, and the relationships between the characters will unfold in relation to these dictates as well, often with a central character or protagonist attempting to prevent the apocalypse and an antagonist blocking that character or abandoning the attempt as hopeless, or perhaps even causing it, either intentionally or unintentionally. The focus of the apocalyptic script, then, is on prevention. The story's conclusion will feature either the success or failure of this endeavor. If the apocalypse is successfully prevented, the protagonist is a hero. If not prevented, although we could certainly consider such fiction to be ultimately bleaker than in the previous case, this bleakness is often ameliorated by the story's suggestion that, although the attempt failed, it was worth doing. We went down fighting, and although this is a small consolation, it's something. Occasionally, a story will be creative in not following the prevention logic to one of only two outcomes. The Terminator franchise has used the trope of time travel, for example, to explore alternating outcomes. And because, through repeated time travel events, we can never be sure if the world will end and the machines will crush us, or not, since any ending can be undone by another time trip, the franchise has been able to avoid eliciting the final emotional response of either elation, the world is safe, or despair when it is destroyed. Post-apocalyptic fiction, however, tends to be the bleakest of all. The world is not safe, nor is the curtain brought down, as it were, at the end of the story, shielding you from the final view of the event or the catastrophic aftermath. Oh no, you are to experience that aftermath along with the characters, to suffer, to regret, to remember, and often to die. There are, of course, important exceptions. Sometimes we call these dark comedies. And of course, there are rays of hope even in these stories. But mostly, they're bleak. Narratively, the story unfolds not through attempted preventions, but through acts of survival. Again, characters will be developed and the relationships between them according to this central focus, not on prevention, but on survival. Often the best conclusion that can be hoped for is that the central characters may find some safe haven, however small. Both of the short stories on our course are post-apocalyptic, so we'll discuss primarily this subcategory. Shall we consider all of the narrative ways in which the world might end? There's the perennial zombie apocalypse, perfect for Halloween especially, but relevant year-round. Ecological disaster, whether melting ice caps, geostorms, volcanoes, asteroids, drought, or any combination of these events, whether natural or man-made, including the climate change apocalypse. AI insurrection, dovetailing with the second feature topic video. Alien invasion, and military apocalypse. At war with each other, we destroy everything. In the decades after the Second World War, nuclear devastation was a prominent initiating event for post-apocalyptic fiction. By the 80s and 90s, it was often combined with AI, reflecting the new computing technologies, as in the Terminator and the Matrix franchises. At the turn of the millennium, the designer virus plot, whether combined with the zombie trope or not, where a plague results from a bioweapon developed for military purposes, has been repopularized quite recently. For all of these scenarios, the post-apocalyptic story will be interested in the same thing. The initiating event itself has little real importance to the plot. It's really just a point of departure. What the post-apocalyptic story most wants to show us, what its plot will turn on, is what it truly means to be human. Thus, the experiences of survival, regret, and even those isolated moments of hope that we witness with our central characters will stand in stark contrast to the behaviors, the predations of the inhuman or the no longer human, of AIs, robots, aliens, and zombies. A variant of this contrast are the plots which develop our own capacity for inhumanity, where we have become savage, beast-like, selfish, and, well, inhumane. Cannibalism is a frequent development in this variant. So the initiating event is not so important in these stories. It's there simply as a springboard for the interrogation of the human other dialectic, an interrogation with high stakes. Will the human, can the human survive in this post-apocalyptic world? Perhaps, and most importantly, why should it? The initiating event may also serve to hang some of the scientific and technological exposition on, some of the, as Catherine Kramer puts it, hard science. But notice that of all the sci-fi we've looked at, the post-apocalyptic fictions are the softest of the bunch. Because of the narrative conditions, it's entirely possible, and frequently the case, to have a post-apocalyptic story with virtually no scientific or technological exposition at all. The only sci-tech exposition may be the initiating event, and it may or may not figure much in the discussions between characters. Indeed, some have argued that lacking this exposition, a lot of post-apocalyptic fiction is not really science fiction at all. Perhaps here is where we need to revert to McClintock's definition of speculative fiction, or to agree with Kramer that the criteria of hard SF is a bit rigid and applicable only to a set of science fictions, not to sci-fi as a genre, as a whole. In any case, both the apocalyptic and post-apocalyptic share the genre's overall ultimate goal: to provide critical commentary and a cautionary message. There is less to be said about our short stories for this topic that we have not already talked about in class. That Only a Mother is softer than There Will Come Soft Rains. With There Will Come Soft Rains, the scientific and/or technological exposition isn't linked to the initiating event, but to the house itself. It consists entirely of descriptions of the house's mechanical systems. You could certainly mark the story up and decide if it's close enough to the golden ratio to count as hard SF. Depends on how you count it. My own impression is that the takeaway of this vignette, the emptiness, the futility, the emotion the vignette provokes, is what carries the story's meaning. It is this emotion that the story exists to convey. We pay less attention to the exposition then, possibly, than we might do otherwise. The Bradbury story is also quite clever in its handling of that conflict between the human and the other, the inhuman, because actually there is no conflict. The house is an extension of its family, an allegory of their fate. It offers not a contrast, but a moving elegy. This makes Bradbury's story something of a unique and interesting contribution to the genre of post-apocalyptic SF. With Merrill's story, That Only a Mother, there is almost no scientific or technological exposition at all. Merrill, though, has also cleverly handled that conflict between the human and the other, and again provided something original and interesting. Using the idea of the plot twist that is built into the structure of the epical short story, Merrill also puts a twist on the presentation of that conflict. The other in this story is not so much the shadowy, faceless enemy that has seeded the earth with radiation, as it is the mother's delusion. Thus, the other becomes not the robot, the alien, the zombie, or even our own capacity for savagery or cannibalism, but instead our capacity for denial and self-delusion. After all, aren't these exactly the traits that cause such initiating events, as we see in several of the apocalyptic scenarios we've listed? By now, the intersections of these feature topics should be taking shape as combinations that, in narrative terms, add up to familiar SF plots. AIs designed as weapons cause an apocalypse, or bioweapons, uncontained by their military contexts, cause an apocalypse, and various other combinations. Our fourth and final feature topic video will begin to knit up the previous topics, collecting them under the rubric of the post-human. It will also extend the discussion we have focused on for the feature topic of apocalypse, what it means to be human, to consider the definition of the human in additional contexts. Contexts that will take us to the end of our eras of inquiry on this course and beyond. The subgenre of cyberpunk, the evolving field of entity rights, and the IRL practice of modern-day biohackers are some of the discussions which may inform our readings of H.G. Wells' The Invisible Man and William Gibson's Burning Chrome.